How you guys doing this evening? You guys good? All right, all right. Well, my name is Steve, and so good to be here with you guys. So do me a solid. Do me a solid. I want you guys to look to your neighbor, and I want you to do something for me. Look at your neighbor and say, "Oh, what great eyes you have." Are you serious? Y'all are weirdos, man. Why would you do something like that? Seriously. So last week, Dan opened us up in a message, or in a series called Shadowland. And as Dan stood right here, in about this spot, he started to explain what Shadowland was, that it can be a place of darkness in our lives. And as he started to say that, I looked up, and last week there was a flag hanging here. And last week this flag, it said, "Taking ground." And I thought, what does that mean? Taking ground. Is that like managing the hardships in our lives, navigating those hardships that we go through? Then I thought, that's exactly what this series is about. Navigating the hardships that we go through. See, because tragedy is suffering. It's a distress that someone is going through, and they need to take ground. They need to navigate through those times in their life. See, sufferings, distress, they come in all different forms. And they look different for everybody. Sort of like for Sarah in this video.
In a small town in the middle of Washington State, on a field inside a chain-linked fence, in a game fewer than 100 people saw. A home run memorable not for the distance it traveled, or the game it decided, but for the meaning it carried. The last Saturday in April, the second game of a softball doubleheader between Central Washington and Western Oregon.
Well, we were both neck and neck fighting for the conference championship.
As a senior, this was Sarah Tucholsky's last chance to win a championship. She'd never hit a home run before, not in college, not in her life.
I'm 5'2", I'm not very tall. I'm more a line drive hitter. I don't hit for power.
But in the top of the second inning, with 2 runners on the second pitch, that changed.
I hit that pitch and it just went.
And we're just cheering, and the runners are cheering as they round the base to head home. And then I'm going, where's Sarah?
In her excitement, Tucholsky failed to touch first base, so she quickly turned back.
Her pivoting just didn't pivot with her. And I heard her kind of yell, and she just dropped to the ground, and I was like, oh no.
Just fell immediately and was in a lot of pain. I tried to keep my legs straight, but I was in so much pain that I couldn't really keep still.
Tucholsky, with a torn ACL, crawled back to first base. She was a long way from reaching home plate and keeping her first and only home run.
When she got back to first base, she laid there and she hugged on to first base. And then at that time, I was staring at the base and I go, what on earth are we going to do?
And I turned the umpire standing right next to me. I said, what is the ruling if I put somebody in for Sarah? He said, it'll be a 2-run single.
If anybody would have, on her team, would have helped Sarah, she would have been called out.
That.
Can you imagine? It was supposed to stop there. Can you imagine how Sarah felt? She just hit her very first home run and then immediately tore her ACL. And she was stuck, lying on first base, holding it, hugging it, in so much pain. And no one could help her. No one from her team could help her, or she would lose that home run. Well, maybe your suffering or your distress looked different than Sarah's, or will look different Because the thing is, the chances are that you will someday have tragedy in your life. You will go through something. And sometimes when we go through these tragedies, it seems like everyone's there for you at the beginning. Everyone's sympathetic that you got hurt. I mean, they're like, oh, poor Billy, are you okay? Right? And then everyone is concerned when you have surgery. I mean, they show up before and afterwards to visit you in the hospital. But on month 3 of physical therapy, well, they went back to normal. While you were left there dealing with your reality and your pain. See, sometimes getting better, getting back to normal, and moving on, well, it can take longer than we could ever imagine, than what we would expect. And you know what? That's okay. It's okay. So as we continue in our series in Shadowland, we're going to be talking about what happens next. What do we do during this time? Because sometimes tragedy, well, it can be a lot like physical therapy or recovery from that surgery. It takes longer than we ever imagined. I have this friend who had lost someone who he was really close to. And he was devastated. And not just for a week, but for months, he was devastated. And I can remember standing up and talking at the funeral, thinking, I can barely get these words out. I can't imagine what he's feeling like. And I don't know what to do. Sure, I was sad, but I can't imagine what he was feeling. I hadn't lost someone I loved so deeply as he did. And I found myself with all kinds of questions. Questions like, how long will he feel like this? How long should he feel like this? How long before he gets back to normal? What in the world should I do? What should I say? And I bet some of you have been in that exact situation. Or maybe you weren't struck by the same type of tragedy. Perhaps you've never experienced a heartbreak or a house fire or your family going through a divorce or a devastating accident or the loss of a loved one. But someone close to you has. Someone close to you has. And if you are friends with someone that has experienced some type of loss, I'm sure that you had the same questions that I had. And you know what? Sometimes I feel helpless around my friends that need me, that need help. And in this next video, Dwight is trying to help his coworkers find the correct route to safety in a fire drill. Let's see how some people are helpful and how some are helpless. They're trying to get it to a certain point because the video didn't work with us.
What does warm mean?
Oh my gosh, try the other door.
Not a viable option. What next?
Don't try!
Go to the other door. Oh, here's a door. Check that one out. How's the handle?
It's warm. Okay, go to the back door.
Another option. Another option. Jeez. Okay, settle down, everyone. No
I forgot my purse.
Leave it, woman. Get out of the way. Go, go, go. No, things can be replaced, Phyllis. People, human lives, however, can...
Ah, my hand, that's hot.
This was hot, too.
Okay, we're trapped. Everyone for himself.
Okay.
Here we go. Let's go. Get out of my way.
Okay. Call, please. Have you ever seen a burn victim? Okay. Procedure. Exit options. Where do we go, folks? Use a what to cover the mouth? A what? A rag. A damp rag, perhaps. Let's remember those procedures. What are the options? Okay. That's the wrong way. We've already tried that. Remember your exit points. Exit points, people. What's next?
Oscar,
Huh?
stay alive. I'm getting help.
Pull me up.
You're too heavy.
I only weigh 82 pounds. Save Bandit.
How about 911? Anyone? 911. surge of fear and adrenaline to sharpen your decision making.
Okay, I am not dying here. Come on.
What is that?
The fire's shooting at us!
What in the name of God is going on?
You're trying to get...
Attention! Employees of Dunder Mifflin! This has been a test of our emergency preparedness. There is no fire, it was only a simulation.
So in this video, we see a group of people feeling helpless, right? A bunch of different emotions running through them. I mean, they're scared, and they have this fear-based running through them. And as this video shows the funnier side of being helpless, it is a struggle when we see our friends hurting and going through the pains of tragedy. And when it comes to the pain that people close to us are facing, most of us, we don't know what to do. So we typically do one of three things. We try to act normal. Often we're not sure what we should do, so we do nothing. We simply try to act normal, even when things don't feel normal. We pretend like everything's okay, even when it's not. Or we start talking, but we often realize that the words coming out of our mouth, they're not what we're meaning to say. The more we talk, the more that we feel like we're not helping. But we don't know what else to do. So we say things like, I know how you feel, when you really don't. Or we say things like, keep yourself busy, when they're super exhausted already. Or we try to fill it with Bible quotes. This too shall pass. You're right, it will pass when I reach down there, but right now I am in my tragedy right here. Or we go silent. We go silent. Out of fear of saying or doing the stupid things, many of us just get out of the way completely. We let the person facing tragedy move towards us instead of us moving towards them. We tell ourselves things like, if they really need me, they'll reach out to me. Until then, we keep our distance because it's too uncomfortable to get caught up in all the confusing feelings. And I'll tell you what, I've done all three of these things. And I'm not saying that they're bad. They're just what we do because we're not sure what else to do. But that's what we're going to talk about tonight. What to do when you find yourself next to somebody in the middle of their shadowland. When you're next to somebody in the middle of their shadowland. Which again is a reflection of the tragedies that may have occurred. Creating a shadow over someone's life. How do you help them? What's the secret? I want to tell you a story that paints a beautiful, beautiful picture of how to be a friend through pain. And I'm telling you, you're going to want to pay attention to this because if you're not standing next to somebody that's in this, going through a tragedy today, one day you will. And what you do, well, it makes a big deal. In fact, the people around you, they won't be able to heal or find hope nearly as fast without you as they will with you. Let me say that again. The people around you won't be able to heal or find hope nearly as fast without you as they will with you. And these truths, they can be found in the book of Ruth. It's a story that has its own tragedy. Even though the book of Ruth, it opens up with a woman named Naomi. Naomi lived in Israel with her husband and her 2 sons. But during this time period, the food situation, it was really scarce. And it was getting really bad. So they decided that we're going to move away. We're going to move away. from our hometown to a place that is forbidden, a place called Moab, where the people of Israel, they've been warned, do not mix with them, do not marry them. But they, don't marry, sorry. But soon after they got there, Naomi's husband, he died. He passed away. And eventually her two sons, they get married, but they married Moabite women. And they were warned not to. And 10 years goes by, and then the two sons, they pass away, leaving Naomi with her and her two daughter-in-laws, Orpah and Ruth, widows. Now, obviously, Naomi's world is rocked. And who could blame her, right? She had been a wife and a mom, and all of that is gone. She enters into grieving mode. And on top of that, she's starving. And more people around her, they're dying. So Naomi decides that she's going to move back to her hometown of Israel where there's rumors of food. Now imagine the amount of desperation that Naomi must be facing. Now, to go back to a place where the people that know her, well, she's going to be arriving without her husband and her two sons. And women in this day, they were considered property. And so who would take care of her? So as she's leaving, Naomi tells Ruth and Orpah to abandon her. She tries to convince them that staying with her would do them no good, that she is old and not sure if someone will take care of her, let alone take care of two Moabite women. And if the two of them would stay in Moab, there's a better chance that they would get married and have children. So she's convinced that it would be too much to ask them to take care of an old lady while traveling and scavenging for food. So she gives them an out, and she tries pushing them away. Now, maybe you have seen someone in your lives react this way. They've been hurt, right? And so they just want people to go away from them. And they create this bubble over their lives. And they keep people at arm's length. And they tell people, get away from me. Don't come around me. I don't need you. And that's exactly how Naomi was feeling. And the shadow is lingering over her. But thankfully, Ruth knew better. When Naomi told Ruth and Orpah to leave, Orpah, she did. She got on the next train and she skipped town. But Ruth was stubborn. Ruth knew that what Naomi was saying wasn't exactly what she wanted or what she needed. When Naomi told the girls to leave, it did not mean she wanted to be alone. And that is where we pick up the story. Ruth says, don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go. And where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. So Ruth and Naomi, they traveled together back to Naomi's homeland, the place where she had lived previous with her husband and her sons. And it was a lengthy journey filled with a lot of grief. In fact, Naomi was in so much pain that she started telling people to call her Mara, a name that meant bitter. Not really a catchy nickname, right? And when Naomi and Ruth arrived in Bethlehem, the whole town was saddened by the sight of her. They were even wondering if this was really Naomi. Her pain had changed her so much that she looked and sounded different. And people were calling her by a different name. So how do you begin to respond to someone that is in that much pain. The people from her town, they were stunned. And she told them, I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. You guys, this is a great picture of pain. And things got worse before they got better. Have you noticed that when people who are going through pains in their life, they have some good days, just to wake up the next day like it all started all over again? Maybe it was a song on the radio that they heard, an old picture that they saw, or a memory that they recalled. But all of a sudden, it seems like they're taking steps backwards instead of forwards. And for Naomi, when she went back to that place where her life had once been full, her new reality was overwhelmed. Her new reality was overwhelmed. In the book of Ruth, well, it goes on for several more chapters. Eventually, things do get better. They do get better, I promise you. Ruth falls in love again. She got married. She actually had a baby boy, a baby that ends up being the ancestor of Jesus himself. Now, Naomi had been like a mother to Ruth, which made Ruth's baby a grandson to Naomi. And when the women of the town saw this, they said, Praise be to the Lord, who this day has not left you without a guardian redeemer. May he become famous throughout Israel. He will renew your life and sustain you in your old age. For your daughter-in-law who loves you and who is better than you, or better to you than 7 sons, has given him birth. This ending doesn't discount the pain that Naomi went through, but it does give a promise to an end. Naomi recovered. She was redeemed from her grief. She found joy in healing, and her life was full again. And you know who played the biggest role? Ruth, the one who stayed with her. God used Ruth to help Naomi heal, to walk with her through the shadow land, and to fill her again. And here's the important part. Catch this. This is important. It wasn't because Ruth said all the right things. All Ruth did was stay by Naomi's side. She didn't perform some intervention where she quoted 25 Bible verses. She didn't fix everything by posting #HelpNaomi. No, she just showed up day after day and walked alongside her. And Ruth's story shows us what people in tragedy need most. And this is to be a friend and keep being a friend. Be a friend today, tomorrow, 3 months from now, even 2 years from now. And that's what you do when you find yourself next to somebody that's in the middle of a tragedy. You don't have to figure it out. You don't have to figure out how to fix it, to make it better, or make it go away, because you can't. You can't. You can't fix it. All you can do is be a friend. So let me give you 4 ways that you can be a friend to somebody that's in their shadowland. Well, first is be present. Romans 12:13 says, share with the Lord's people who are in need. Show up in their lives. Sit with them at lunch. Call or text them every day. Go over to their house every other weekend for no apparent reason. Just be there and love them. Don't let them be alone. Fight for them. Second is this, love. And love radically. Encourage them. Write them a note. I know that's kind of odd, but write them a note. Give them a ride somewhere. Stand up for them in conversations that are against them. Take notes for them in class. Third is listen. Whenever they want to talk, be a great listener. Not a good listener, but a great listener. You don't have to have the answers or the solutions. In fact, in the midst of Naomi's pain, Ruth doesn't try to say anything to cheer Naomi up like, just trust in God. Or God's in charge. And those aren't bad phrases. But sometimes the right words at the wrong time can be frustrating. And people don't need a lot of words, even true words, not when the pain is raw. They just need someone to listen. They just need someone to listen. And last is this: be patient. Healing takes time. Romans 12:12 says, to be patient in affliction. Getting through hard times, however big, however small, however personal they may be, requires us to be patient with ourselves and with others as they work through them. It almost always takes longer than it should. There's only one way, though, to get to the other side, and that's to keep going until one day you realize that you reached there. So we started off this evening with a message from a young lady who got injured in her very last game of her senior year in college, the last time she would play ball. And during this game, she hit her very first home run and her very last home run. Let's see what happens when people, even people you don't know, love someone who has suffered a tragedy.
In a small town in the middle. That's when Central Washington's Mallory Holtman, a player with more home runs than any other in conference history, a player for the opposing team, spoke up.
I went to the home plate umpire and asked if we could pick her up and carry her, and he looked at me a little strange.
And the umpire went and said, yes, you can do that. I'm still standing there in shock. I said, thank you so much.
We asked her, so like, is it okay if we pick you up and carry you around the bases? And I say yes, and and say thank you. And she says, you hit the ball over the fence, you deserve it.
For that reason only, because she deserved it, Holtman and Wallace began to carry the injured Tucholsky, stopping to touch her left foot on each base as the three made their way around the diamond.
We actually started laughing because we were just wondering what this would look like to all the people in the stands.
When I looked up, I didn't see, giant smiles and screams. I saw emotion and tears and people crying.
It's a great moment when someone has character to step up and do the right thing at the right time.
It's emotional. You're proud to be associated with those kids.
That's the first home run of the season for number 8, Sarah Tucholsky.
The fact is, I made my goal. I hit a home run, and it's my last at bat of my career, but I, made my goal, so.
Tragedy comes in different forms. For Sarah and Naomi, their tragedies, they look totally different. Eventually, Naomi was able to laugh again, to see the other side of the tragedy, to smile. And it wasn't because someone said the right words, but because she got through it. She moved forward. She woke up each and every morning and got through the day. And she did it with Ruth close by. She wasn't alone. And the same is seen in this video. Sarah's able to appreciate the home run because people loved her. They loved her well. And I love what the coach says there at the end. The coach says, it's a great moment when someone has character to step up and do the right thing at the right time. To step up and do the right thing at the right time. So as we transition to small groups tonight, I urge you to start thinking about someone that you may know that's walking in a shadow land. And I just want you to know this. God wants to use you to help them. And you can. Not by being an expert, but like Ruth, by being a friend. So when it comes to tragedy, be a friend, not a fixer. Thanks, guys.